Some shots changed history, and some make you wonder how anyone survived the Old West. From rifles that could pierce a man at impossible distances to revolvers that turned duels into deadly exhibitions of precision, the frontier was a proving ground for the most terrifying ballistics the world had ever seen. Today, we're counting down the top 5 most terrifying ballistics of the Old West, guns, bullets, and feats of marksmanship so extreme they blur the line between legend and reality. Strap in, because each shot tells a story of skill, luck, and sheer survival instinct that could make even the toughest outlaw think twice before drawing his gun. Most people today struggle to hit a target at 25 yards with a modern handgun. In 1865, Wild Bill Hickok ended a gunfight with a single shot to the heart from roughly 3 times that distance. On July 21, 1865, in Springfield, Missouri, James Butler Hickok faced Davis Little Dave Tutt in the middle of Park Central Square. What followed lasted only seconds, but it became the blueprint for the Western quick-draw duel and cemented Hickok's legend forever. Hickok was 28 years old. As a former Union Army scout and courier known for his composure and deadly marksmanship. Tall, long-haired, and unshakable under pressure, he carried 2 Colt 1851 Navy revolvers tucked butt forward for a cross-draw. Locally, he was already recognized as a skilled gambler and gunman, but he had not yet become a national myth. Tutt, a former Confederate soldier and professional gambler, had once been friends with Hickok despite their opposing sides in the Civil War. When that friendship collapsed over gambling disputes. The final break came at the Lion House Hotel during a poker game. Tutt claimed Hickok owed him money. Hickok disputed it. Instead of resolving the matter quietly, Tutt escalated things. He seized Hickok's gold pocket watch as collateral, a public humiliation designed to challenge his standing. Hickok warned him plainly, do not wear the watch in the town square. The next evening, around 6 p.m., Tutt stepped into Park Central Square with the watch clearly visible. Hickok approached from the opposite side. Witnesses estimated the distance at roughly 75 yards, about 225 feet. Some later analysis suggests it may have been slightly shorter, but even reduced estimates still made it an extraordinary range for a black powder revolver. Both men turned sideways, minimizing their profiles in a classic duelist stance. Tutt placed his hand on his pistol. Deceased accounts differ slightly on who fired first, but the shots were nearly simultaneous. Tutt's round went high. Hickok steadied his shooting hand with his left, aimed deliberately, and fired once. The .36 caliber round ball struck Tutt between the 5th and 7th ribs, pierced his heart, and exited his chest. He reportedly said, "Boys, I'm killed," before staggering toward the courthouse steps and collapsing. Hickok did not fire a second shot. The technical side makes this duel even more remarkable. The Colt 1851 Navy fired an 80-grain lead round ball propelled by roughly 22 to 30 grains of black powder, producing a muzzle velocity near 840 feet per second. Over 75 yards, the projectile would experience noticeable drop and lose velocity. With fixed sights and no modern adjustments, success demanded instinctive understanding of trajectory, exceptional trigger control, and absolute calm under pressure. Hickok was arrested immediately and charged with manslaughter. During a 3-day trial, he argued self-defense, citing Tutt's public provocation and the fact that he had moved toward his weapon. On August 6, 1865, the jury acquitted him. The decision was controversial in a town still divided after the Civil War, but legally, Hickok walked free. The Colt 1851 Navy itself was one of the most successful percussion revolvers of the 19th century. Introduced in 1850, it was a 6-shot. One single-action revolver with a 7.5-inch octagonal barrel and an overall length of roughly 13 inches. It weighed about 2.6 pounds and used percussion caps with powder and ball loaded from the front. The cylinder was engraved with a naval battle scene, and the Navy designation referred to its .36 caliber chambering rather than official maritime use. Compared to heavier .44 caliber Army models, the Colt 1851 Navy was lighter, easier to carry daily, and perfect for the cross-draw style Hickok preferred. That practicality, combined with its manageable recoil, made it the revolver of choice for scouts, gamblers, soldiers, and legends alike. The Springfield duel was not the first gunfight in American history, but it was one of the earliest widely documented examples of two men facing each other openly at distance, resolving conflict with deliberate fire instead of chaotic exchange. Dime novels and later Western films would amplify the moment into mythology. The exact yardage may still be debated. The outcome is not. One carefully aimed black powder revolver round ended the fight instantly and transformed a regional gunman into a permanent figure of frontier legend. On June 27, 1874, at Adobe Walls in the Texas Panhandle, buffalo hunter Billy Dixon fired a shot that would go down in history. From 1,538 yards, he struck a Comanche warrior, knocking him off his horse. That single round demoralized hundreds of attackers and effectively ended the siege. This was not luck. It was precision, instinct, and a rifle built for the frontier. Billy Dixon was 24 years old, a seasoned scout and marksman. Orphaned at a young age, he ran away at 12 and worked as a mule driver, woodcutter, and ox driver before becoming a buffalo hunter. By 1874, he had already scouted for the US Army and developed exceptional skill with Sharp's rifles. He was not a soldier, but this single shot turned him into a legend. Later, he would earn the Medal of Honor for his role in the Buffalo Wallow fight and spend his life as a rancher, postmaster, and sheriff in Texas. Adobe Walls was defended by 28 men, this including notable figures like Bat Masterson and James Hanrahan. They faced a coalition of 700 to 1,200 warriors, Comanche, Cheyenne, and Kiowa, led by Quanah Parker and Issa Tai, a Comanche medicine man who claimed divine protection against bullets. The escalating destruction of the buffalo and Issa Tai's prophecy had created high tension, setting the stage for a violent confrontation. The battle began at dawn, with waves of warriors attacking the fortified post. Armed with Sharp's rifles, the defenders repelled them repeatedly. Initial casualties included 2 hunters and a dog, but the defenders inflicted heavy losses on the attackers. After 3 days, a small group of about 15 warriors appeared on a bluff east of the post, observing the defenders. Dixon borrowed Hanrahan's .50-90 Sharp's rifle, as his own .45 Sharp's was deemed inadequate for the extreme distance. He aimed carefully, adjusting for wind, elevation, and distance, and fired. Seconds later, a Comanche warrior fell from his horse. US Army engineers later surveyed the distance at 1,538 yards, roughly 0.875 miles. Dixon called it a scratch shot, but the precision was undeniable. The attackers interpreted it as a divine sign contradicting Issa Tai's prophecy. Morale broke, and they withdrew. The Sharp's Model 1874 rifle was the ultimate frontier long-range weapon. It was a single-shot falling block rifle chambered in .50-90, firing bullets approximately 0.512 inches in diameter, in 550 to 700 grains, propelled by 90 grains of black powder. Dixon's rifle had a likely 34-inch barrel, overall length around 50 inches, and weighed 10 to 16 pounds, providing stability for extreme-range shots. It featured an adjustable tang-peep rear sight and front blade, capable of aiming beyond 1,000 yards. The double-set trigger allowed precision control. Muzzle velocity ranged from 1,200 to 1,400 feet per second, delivering sufficient energy for lethality at extreme distances. My calculations estimate that Dixon's bullet traveled roughly 5.77 seconds, dropping about 536 feet over the trajectory. To hit the target, he had to elevate the rifle 20 to 30 degrees above the warrior, factoring in wind, temperature, and instinct. The bullet retained approximately 500 foot-pounds of energy at impact, enough to ensure a fatal strike. That one shot not only saved Adobe Walls, but also solidified the Sharps rifle's reputation as the definitive frontier weapon. Was Dixon's feat became legendary, inspiring dime novels and historical accounts, and modern tests confirm that such a shot was physically possible with skill and the right equipment. 100 yards with a revolver is not a gunfight. It is a gamble against physics. Most pistol rounds lose serious accuracy past 25 yards. The sights are small, the barrel is short, and black powder fouls the cylinder. Now imagine doing it from the hip without raising the gun to eye level. John Wesley Hardin claimed he could. The boast became known as the 100-yard claim, a legend that followed him for the rest of his violent life. Whether frontier exaggeration, intimidation, or truth, people believed him. Hardin was born in 1853 in Bonham, Texas, the son of a Methodist preacher named after John Wesley, the founder of Methodism. The Civil War tore through his childhood, and his family sided with the Confederacy, making violence a constant backdrop. At 15, Hardin killed his first man, claiming self-defense after a confrontation with a formerly enslaved man named Mage. By his early 20s, he was a fugitive, gambler, and participant in the Sutton-Taylor feud in South Texas. In his 1896 autobiography, The Life of John Wesley Hardin, as written by himself, he claimed 42 killings, though historians estimate 20 to 30, many impossible to verify. Several incidents reinforce the 100-yard legend. In 1871 near Newton, Kansas, Hardin wrote about a confrontation with a Mexican trail boss named Jose. According to Hardin, Jose fired first from roughly 100 yards, and Hardin returned fire from about 75 yards, striking Jose through the heart. Another account from 1870 mentions Hardin wounding a man named Sublet at 75 yards, admitting he could not kill at that distance. These stories suggest exceptional ability, not supernatural perfection. Most Old West gunfights occurred within 10 yards, where speed and nerve mattered more than sight alignment. Shooting from the hip relied on instinct and repetition. Beyond 25 yards, black powder revolvers became wildly unreliable. Ballistically, a .44 caliber round leaving the barrel at 800 to 1,000 feet per second drops significantly over 100 yards, compounded by wind, inconsistent powder, and primitive sights. Hardin cultivated his reputation carefully. After serving 16 years in Huntsville prison for killing Deputy Sheriff Charles Webb in 1874, he emerged in 1894 with a law degree and a manuscript. He sold bullet-hold playing cards as souvenirs, was demonstrating precision at close range. The 100-yard claim was as much psychological warfare as marksmanship. Fear amplified his influence, deterring challengers. Some rivals avoided him entirely, though he never faced a confirmed showdown with Wild Bill Hickok. His life ended violently in 1895 in El Paso, Texas, when Constable John Selman shot him in the back of the head. The man famed for distance was killed at close range. The weapon most associated with Hardin's early career was the Colt Model 1860 Army, a .44 caliber, single-action, 6-shot revolver with an 8-inch barrel and overall length of 14 inches, weighing approximately 2.6 pounds. It fired a 250-grain bullet over 30 to 40 grains of black powder at muzzle velocities of 800 to 1,000 feet per second. Many were later converted to metallic cartridges, bridging percussion-era revolvers to the 1873 Colt single-action army. Hardin also carried Schofield top brakes and Remington .45s later in life, often in pairs for cross-draw, but the 1860 Army defines the technological context of his most famous claims. A gunfight so fast it could make your head spin, so close that bullets whizzed past at 6 feet, and yet every shot landed with deadly intent. This was the OK Corral, October 26, 1881. 30 seconds that turned Wyatt Earp and his allies into legends, and left 3 cowboys dead before the smoke even cleared. Wyatt Earp, 33, had already built a reputation as a calm, precise lawman. Born in Illinois, he'd patrolled Dodge City, Kansas. Orson arrived in Tombstone with his brothers to capitalize on the silver boom. Tall, steady, and a master marksman, he was deputized alongside his brothers Virgil and Morgan and his close friend Doc Holliday, a consumptive gambler and dentist armed with a shotgun and nickel-plated revolver. Opposing them were the Cowboys, Ike and Billy Clanton, Frank and Tom McClory, and Billy Claiborne. Rustlers and outlaws, whilst they resented the Earps' enforcement of a town ordinance banning firearms within the city limits. Tensions had been simmering for months. The night before, Ike Clanton got drunk and belligerent. Virgil disarmed him the next morning. Rumors flew that the Cowboys were arming themselves. By mid-afternoon on October 26th, Virgil learned that the McClorys and Clantons were gathered in a vacant lot off Fremont Street, openly armed. He deputized Wyatt, Morgan, and Holliday, and they moved to confront them. The lot was narrow, just 15 to 20 feet wide. Initial separation between the groups was 6 to 10 feet. Virgil commanded, "Throw up your hands, I want your guns." Eyewitnesses differ on who fired first. Smoke, nerves, and adrenaline obscured the opening seconds. What is certain is that the first volley rang out almost simultaneously. Doc Holliday fired a shotgun blast that struck Tom McClory in the chest, killing him instantly. Then Virgil and Morgan shot Billy Clanton, hitting his chest and wrist. Wyatt fired at Frank McClory. The Cowboys returned fire, wounding Virgil in the calf, Morgan in the shoulder and back, and grazing Holliday. Within 30 seconds, 3 Cowboys lay dead. Ike Clanton and Billy Claiborne fled unharmed. The Earps survived, though injured, and the fight became a defining moment of frontier law enforcement. The aftermath included murder charges filed by Ike Clanton. This month-long preliminary hearing, the Spicer hearing, ended in acquittal. The judge ruled that the Earps acted within their legal authority, but the fight didn't end there. In 1882, the Earp vendetta ride followed, with Wyatt hunting the cowboy assassins who ambushed Virgil and murdered Morgan. Wyatt eventually left Arizona, living into the 20th century as a prospector and consultant for Western films. The event became the archetype for the Western showdown. Films like Gunfight at the OK Corral in 1957, Tombstone in 1993, and Wyatt Earp in 1994 dramatized the encounter. Today, the site is a tourist attraction with daily reenactments, symbolizing frontier justice. Though historians continue to debate motives and precise details, Wyatt Earp's weapon of choice was most likely a Colt single-action Army in .45 Colt caliber with a 7.5-inch barrel. Some accounts suggest an 8-inch .44 Smith & Wesson gifted by Mayor John Clum, but the long-barreled buntline special is a myth. The Colt SAA, designed in 1872 and adopted by the US Army in 1873, was a single-action revolver with a 6-round cylinder, powerful .45 Colt ammunition, and a weight and balance that made it ideal for precise shooting under stress. Bullet drop was negligible at the ultra-close 6 to 20-foot ranges of the fight, but stopping power was immense, delivering roughly 400 to 500 foot-pounds of energy. Imagine walking a quiet canyon, just you and 2 companions, when suddenly 14 armed men rise from cover and open fire. Within seconds, every choice you make could mean life or death. That was the reality for Jonathan R. Davis on December 19, 1854, and what happened next would become one of the most extraordinary single-man gunfights in American frontier history. Davis was 38, a former U.S. Army lieutenant turned prospector in California's Sierra Nevada foothills. A veteran of the Mexican-American War, he had fought at Churubusco, survived wounds, and honed a deadly combination of marksmanship and swordsmanship. By the Gold Rush era, he carried 2 Colt percussion revolvers and a large Bowie knife, tools as familiar to him as a cowboy's spurs. That afternoon in Rocky Canyon, Davis and his companions, James C. McDonald and Dr. Bolivar Sparks, were ambushed. McDonald was killed almost instantly. So Sparks was mortally wounded, but managed a few shots before collapsing. The remaining attackers swarmed Davis. Alone, he stood his ground. With remarkable speed, Davis drew his 2 Colt revolvers. He fired with devastating precision, killing 7 bandits, likely emptying both 6-shot cylinders in rapid succession. When the last 4 outlaws closed in, wielding Bowie knives and at least 1 sword, Davis switched seamlessly to melee combat. When contemporary accounts describe him parrying sword strikes, stabbing enemies, and even severing a finger and slicing off a nose, all while keeping his stance. He emerged unscathed, save for 6 bullet holes in his hat and 11 through his coat and shirt, none of which touched his skin. Nearby, miners later counted 11 dead assailants and recovered $491 in stolen gold. Newspapers at the time, bandit confessions and coroner reports confirm it. 1 man, 11 killers neutralized. It was a stand-your-ground fight that combined firearms and knife combat with near-perfect execution. Davis's actions weren't just skill, they were a masterclass in composure under overwhelming pressure. The weapons that made it possible were iconic. Davis relied on Colt percussion revolvers, likely model 1851 Navy. Introduced in 1850 by Samuel Colt, the .36 caliber 6-shot revolver was lighter and more practical than the .44 Dragoon, perfect for miners and lawmen alike. So it fired round lead balls of roughly 80 grains over 20 to 30 grains of black powder, achieving muzzle velocities of 800 to 900 feet per second. The octagonal 7.5-inch barrel and overall 13-inch length offered balance and accuracy, while fixed sights, a front bead and rear hammer notch demanded skill over guesswork. Davis also carried a large Bowie knife, ideal for close quarters once his pistols were spent. Afterward, Davis faced no charges. It was ruled self-defense. Says the Gold Rush community buzzed with disbelief, cementing his legend. Today, historians still recognize it as one of the deadliest one-man engagements in US history. A rare moment where reality outdid fiction, and one man turned an ambush into a masterful, deadly stand. If the thunder of these legendary guns left you breathless, smash that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to join the ride through history's deadliest firepower. Stick around, because the Old West might be gone, but its most terrifying ballistics still echo through time, and you won't want to miss a single shot.